Find out more. Today we get to find out more about the band, the Dukes. It started back over 40, maybe even 50 years ago, and they have reunited, and now they're going to officially retire again. And joining us to share a little bit about their journey as a band is one of the original members, Bill Kitchens. Hey, Bill.
Hey, Rebecca, how are you today?
I am doing well. Okay, when did the Dukes, the band, originally form?
Well, the band originally formed about the time the British invasion of man started in the United States, which would be 1964. And we were impressed with the Beatles. We had a neighborhood of about 14 or 15 boys and girls about my age. And we decided we'd form a band to see if we could be the next Beatles, you know. We wanted to do I Want to Hold Your Hand just as good as they did. So we just got together. We had, some members come, some go, didn't fit in, whatever. And then each of us, there were 6 of us, we were all self-taught. And that's when we started the Dukes back in 1964.
What grade were you in, Mr. Bill?
Started my sophomore year at Northeast Mississippi Community College. And two of the other guys were freshmen at Northeast, and the other 3 guys were seniors at New Albany High School.
Did you have any instrument experience prior to creating the band, the Dukes?
No, ma'am. Not really.
So you said you were self-taught. Which instrument did you pick up, Mr. Bill, and say, I'm just going to figure this out?
Well, I don't know if I picked first or last or whatever, but I ended up playing the keyboard. My mother was a nice pianist, and she taught me a lot about chords and whatever. But as far as formal piano lessons, I took 6 weeks one time in the 6th grade in the summer, and that was my only formal. I got through Thompson book number 2, I think, and that was the extent of my musical education. 3 of the other guys actually played in the high school band, so they had some, they could read music and whatever, but they played guitars, which was not their band instrument. So everybody just sort of learned on their own how to play. We didn't have YouTube then back to, how you play this song. So everybody just started out learning chords, and then as time went on, we became proficient at lead guitar, and had a good drummer, and had a great lead singer. And we began to play all over North Mississippi we practiced about a year and a half, 2 or 3 times a week at a drummer's parents' house. And I'm sure they loved giving up their Sunday afternoons to us teenagers, making a lot of racket. But we became fairly proficient at playing music, self-taught, yes.
So, Mr. Bill, how did the name The Dukes come about for you guys' band?
Well, back in the 60s, a lot of bands had, I guess you'd call them sort of royalty names. The Kingsmen is one I recall off the top of my head, Queen a little bit later on. So we just thought we'd pick something sort of with a little royalty to the name, so we just, out of the air, came up with The Dukes. It had no rhyme and reason other than that.
And it stuck. You guys gained in popularity. You mentioned you started playing gigs around North Mississippi in the late 60s. When did it click to you all that maybe, hey, we're not so bad. People are coming back to see us. We're getting a little attention.
That's right. I tell you, we just kept playing. We played a lot of places around North Mississippi, like Tupelo, Pontotoc, Oklahoma, Hollow Springs, at Northeast, down in Philadelphia, where my good friend Dick Moffus lived, Millsaps, and several fraternity and sorority parties at Ole Miss. So somebody liked us pretty well because they kept calling us back to come play,
So you guys
and we played. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say you got the opportunity to travel from Mississippi all the way to New York City to watch the Ted Mack Show. I'm going to be honest, Mr. Bill, I'd never heard of the Ted Mack Show before, but I'm going to assume that maybe it was a little bit before my time.
Yes, just a little bit, Rebecca. I'm assuming you're less than 100. So the Ted Mack Show was sort of like America's Got Talent today. And the Ted Mack Show was on. It started out as Major Bowles' amateur hour on the radio before television, and then Ted Mack was part of his program on the radio, and eventually turned it into a TV show called the Ted Mack Amateur Hour. I don't recall the year that it ended, but if you wanted to see the Dukes perform on the Ted Mack Show in 1960, well, 65, but it was aired in January of 66, you can go to YouTube and just put in the Dukes on the Ted Mack Show, and you can see our performance.
How was that? Was it exciting? Were you nervous? How did you travel together? Sort of explain it to us.
Well, that's an interesting part of the story. To bring up to the trip to New York City, sort of how we got in there. This would be in the fall of '65. The Dukes participated in the talent contest at the Union County Fair in August of '65, and we'd also been on WMCT TV out of Memphis on a talent show. Just sort of a Saturday youth talent show. But we won the talent contest at the fair in 1965, and I guess that sort of built our egos up a little bit. So we said, well, why not let's enter the Mid-South Fair Youth Talent Contest in Memphis at the Mid-South Fair. So my mother was a big publicity person for us, and she found out how we could enter the Mid-South Fair Talent Contest. So we got in that. That would be in September of '65. And there were over 1,000 participants. It's hard to believe that many kids from the Mid-South participated. And they were representing 140 different towns and cities in the Mid-South area. And it was like a 6-day competition to get everybody. It was in different groups, like vocal group, a band group, other type of act, dancers, whatever. So it took 6 days to get everybody through and advance all the way to the finals. So we won our original. We won the original round, preliminary round, I guess is the proper term. There was on the 28th. And then on the day after that, or 2 days later, on September 30th, we participated in the semifinals. And lo and behold, we did not win.
Well, sometimes you can't win them all, but that'll set you up for something greater, right?
That's right, yeah, because the MC for the finals, which we did not make, was Ted Mack. And he already had this amateur hour on television going. And he hosted the finals. But for all of us that did not make the finals, they had talent scouts there from the Ted Mack Show. And they interviewed, I don't know how many of us that did not win, to pick out about 60 acts that were going to be invited to come to the Ted Mack Show. Not all the same day, but over several weeks. They first told us we were going to go to California. We were going to be on television in California. We were excited about that, but before it got around to us, they changed the venue to New York City.
Had you ever been to New York City prior to this opportunity, Bill?
That's been my one and only time to go to New York City. I don't think I left anything there, so I don't plan on going back to find it. But it was an awesome trip. If you can only imagine 6 little boys, we weren't little boys, 16 to 18 years old, going to New York City. It was an 8-day trip. Guess what? We rode the train from Memphis to New York City to Grand Central. It took 30 hours each way. So that was quite the adventure. The train stopped about every little pig trail town between here and there. And we picked up some of one of my members' cousins that met us in Washington, D.C.
Mr. Bill, we're going to pause you there. We're going to enjoy some music by the Dukes that's going to take us out of good things. And then we're going to pick up your story coming up next. So hang tight. more. Today we're finding out more about the long run of the band, the Dukes. You just heard of their showing there at the Ted Mack Show back in, you said, Mr. Bill, 1964?
1964, Rebecca. Yes.
All righty. And you are one of the original members, and I know that you guys had your run. So the first run of the Dukes, I mean, you had your moment there at the Ted Mack Show, which I know had to be a lot of fun. Did anything come out of that other than just gaining more popularity? Did you win that show or get a record deal or something?
Well, when we came back from New York, we were sitting on the sideline a little bit, just expecting the phone to ring. And we were going to get invited to be, do some recording, be the next Beatles. But gosh, Rebecca, that really didn't work out. We did go to Memphis and do some studio recording, and talked with some record folks there with R-Bell Records. I don't know if they even exist anymore. But we did some demos and that sort of thing, but it never really got much bigger than that. And, after a couple more years of playing, we became the age, some of us are getting married and going off to college, the younger guys, whatever. And some of us wanted to play a different type of music, so we formed other bands. So the Dukes broke up after about 3 years, I suppose. It was somewhere around 1968.
So you guys kind of dissolved, went in your own way, but then you found each other. Is it 40 years later? Is that the story, Mr. Bill?
Yes, we're sitting here one day 40 years later, and Miss Jill Smith, the director of the Union County Heritage and Historical Museum, called me and asked would the Dukes consider getting back together and doing a reunion concert to benefit of the museum. And some of the guys didn't want to, and some of us did. And Miss Jill had gone through the National Archives and had got a CD of that performance that you saw yourself on the Ted Mack Show. And we all got together one night, and she showed the DVD of us playing on the Ted Mack Show, and we sort of got fired up, and finally everybody agreed to play. Some of the guys thought, we'll play a couple of songs. Well, we ended up doing a 2-hour concert, and it was the biggest one-night event at the Magnolia Civic Center here in Albany since this has been open. So we were very proud of that. It seemed like everybody our age came to relive our youth, if you will, and that 40-year later reunion concert. It was a huge success, Rebecca.
So it's been 4 decades since you guys had played together. So what kind of music was on your lineup for, for the celebration? Did you throw it all the way back to 1965? Did you throw in some new stuff that had, come out since you guys took your break? Like, what were you playing?
We played 1964, 1965 music just like we did 40 years prior. We added nothing that we hadn't played back then. So it was a nostalgic event that night. And I've got pictures of the crowd there, and it was just a packed house. The fire marshal wouldn't let us put any more in there. We had to turn people away. And it was just a great evening that Miss Jill Smith had put together for us. They had a projector going showing the Dukes on the Ted Mack Show and some other memorabilia type pictures and films from back in the 60s on some screens there at the
By this time, Mr. Bill, I would assume you've got kids, you've got grandkids of all of the bands, of the Dukes band members coming out to see their grandparents rocking and rolling. What was it like to have your extended family watch, something you loved maybe at their age?
Yes, I mean, our lead singer didn't participate in this reunion thing, but the other staff did, and everyone had, a lot of family there. Our drummer's dad, Mr. Grover Moore, he accompanied us as a chaperone on this trip to New York City, and we recognized him and Miss Jill Smith from the museum. And Miss Ann Daniels, who used to be our house mother, we had a building called a community house here. In my day and age, we had dances there quite often in the summertime, and had regional bands come in. Some as far away as Jackson, Mississippi, if you can believe that, played here in the Albany Forest in the summertime especially. So we had music and dancing in our lives ever since high school on up. And I still would dance if I could find somebody that could.
I bet there's somebody out there, Mr. Bill, that would dance along with you. And then that kind of spurred you guys to continue to play some more. But I hear that maybe you're wrapping things up officially for the Dukes again at the end of July. Tell us about that.
Yes. Well, this week is we're going to have a farewell appearance this Friday night at Rafters here in the Albany, a music and food venue. Has been gracious to let us play. And this is going to wrap us up this time. We've played for almost 16 additional years since that reunion concert back in '07. Two of the original members have passed away since that reunion concert. 3 more have just retired. So I was the only original guy still playing, and gosh, I've got to meet a lot of I call them famous blues guys here in town because I kept playing and just had the opportunity to meet a lot of different folks in the music business. But let me tell you one last thing, if I can get this in, about our trip to New York City on the train. The train ride was 30 hours. Now, we did not have a sleeper car, so it was in just a club car, you know. The only thing that made it horrible, there were 25 teenage girls from the Martha Scott Dancers out of Memphis that also participated in the Mid-South Fair that got invited to come to the Ted Mack show. And we all went on the same car to get cheaper rates and whatever. So the girls made it a little more entertaining than if it just been us boys on this trip.
You know, God works in mysterious ways, Mr. Bill.
Yes, it does. And we had 4 days in New York City prior to the Ted Mack show that we got to see the sights, you know, some of them, the Statue of Liberty and Radio City Music Hall and the Empire State Building. And we got to see 2 Broadway shows. I can only remember one. It was Hello, Dolly, with Kira Channing as the star. So I guess that was our culture part of the trip.
Well, it sounds like you've had an incredible run over the last, I'm trying to do the math, it feels like 60 years with your love of music. I know the Dukes will be retiring at the end of July, coming up this weekend, right. But will you keep playing on?
Well, that's a good question. I do sit in with another band or two from Memphis that comes down here and play, but I don't know if I continue, long term or not. Some folks think I'm getting too old to do this, so I'll be 76 in October, but I still love to play, so we'll see.
I think you will continue to play as long as you want to play, Mr. Bill. I would say keep playing, finding someone to dance with on the dance floor, and keep moving as long as you're able to get up and sort of do it. And if we're able to come out this weekend, how do we find where you'll be for that farewell concert?
Well, we're going to be at Rafters Food and Music. It's on Bankhead Street in New Albany, close to the hospital. So anybody knows where the Union County Hospital is, they can find Rafters. It's a great little venue.
And then does the Dukes have their spot in the museum? Tell us where we can come find you if you do.
We did have the display some time ago. I don't know if it's still up. It still rotates a lot of displays right now. I know they're working on one for athletes out of Union County that have gone on to be, we've got some World Series baseball guys here that's got the rings and different things. So I know she's working on a sports exhibit right now. So I don't know if we're still up on the wall anywhere or not at the museum, but they can tell you about us if you want to go by there.
And Mr. Bill, what's your favorite song the Dukes ever played together?
Well, that's a good question. The favorite song we ever played.
Or one of the most requested.
Maybe Money by the Kingsmen. The best things in life are free, but I need some money.
Sounds like good titles to me. It sounds like a great run, too, with good friends. I love that you guys found each other after 40 years and kept going. Yeah. Mr. Bill, it's been such a pleasure, and best of luck to your show this weekend. And please keep in touch.
All right, Rebecca, thank y'all for having us on the radio today. And just FYI, I do listen to several of your different radio hosts during the week when I'm out riding around in my little truck. So thank y'all for being on there, okay?
Well, we appreciate you listening, Mr. Bill, and we're going to leave us out here on Good Things with a little bit more of the Dukes. So stick tight.